Nice and ready. Excellent. Great. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. My name is Lana Shalom, and I'm welcoming today to the second Ho'oponopono session. Second. Just make sure. Just 1 second as I'm going live on Facebook. Just want to make sure I am able to okay. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Okay. There you go. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you again. My name is Lana Shalom. I'm a certified advanced Ho'oponopono practitioner and facilitator. I am a certified Neurographica instructor and coach. I am here today to talk to you, to bring you the second part, the second session within the Ho'oponopono plus Neurographica transformational program. On Mondays, today specifically, we will be focusing more on Ho'oponopono program. I will be giving you more advanced info, advanced information, bringing to you, explaining to you a lot of things that are more of advanced Ho'oponopono course. We all know about the beautiful Ho'oponopono method. Most of the people, at least I know, are aware of the 4 beautiful phrases that Ho'oponopono brings. Not everybody fully understand the reason, not everybody understand that there is a way, different ways to practice Ho'oponopono. And that's exactly what I am here to talk to you about, to bring to you and to start giving you information about this wonderful, beautiful method. Okay, so let's start. As we last week on Monday, I led the first session number 1, where I gave some kind of intro to how the Ho'oponopono method was started, the origins of it starting to be so widespread movement around the world, and how it originated. Originally, it was not such an open practice. It was very closed for certain geographical location. It was originally only located in Hawaii. And today let's go into details, right? Let's start talking more about how it works, why it works, what do we need it for, how do we bring it? And most importantly, of course, we're going to discuss more and more how to practice it, okay? In today's session, I will be, give me 1 second. Okay. Give me 1 second. In today's session, I will be talking to you more. We will be discussing a bit more the explanation, how it works and why it works. For those of you who are looking for logical explanations, then we will actually be practicing the breathing meditational part of doing Ho'oponopono. And then I will be explaining more, again, why do we cleanse, and giving you more details on the way to do it so it actually works more than just saying the 4 phrases, okay? Remember, the deeper you do it, it's like, again, we're going to bring allegories, since it is Neurographica plus Ho'oponopono. I'm going to bring allegories to Neurographica, that just like you can do Neurographica very simply, very quickly, just draw neural lines, add some shapes, and you can do Neurographica deeply, actually going through the 7 steps, right? And there is a deeper explanation, deeper understanding, and again, of course, a more transformational way of doing it, okay? I will be looking at Facebook, so those of you who are watching me live stream, I know most people told me they will be watching me in recording, but those of you who are watching me live stream, welcome to write your questions, write your comments underneath. I will be very glad to hear from you and read your answer your questions, of course. So I want to start with a very interesting story that I want to tell you. It's called, Whose Job Is It? There's a little story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. Wait a second. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry at that because it was everybody's job, and everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. And we all understand, of course, that the story is an allegory, right? It's an interesting way to bring the understanding that it's everybody's job, it's everybody's responsibility, it's everybody's work in this world to learn how to bring, clarity, transformation to oneself first, to one's family, and then to the community, to the world at large. So let's start going further. Let's start understanding more about Ho'oponopono. Just a quick sign-ups from last week. Ho'oponopono is a Hawaiian method where people would solve any issues, any problems or any issues rising between the relationship between families or people. It was originally, of course, practiced only in the tribes within the Hawaiian, habitat, where the leader of the tribe, the shaman, would bring the people together, whoever was fighting or had a conflict, sit them down, and they would do a certain process where they would say 4 phrases to each other. At a certain time, a lady named, let me show you. A lady named Morna Simeona decided to bring this Hawaiian private practice. She decided to make it public, and she succeeded in doing so. This method now is known all over the world. It's extremely popular. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows the 4 phrases. Her student, Dr. Hulan, I will be referring to him a lot because he's the one I took my training from, Dr. Hulan, and of course, the person who wrote a lot about this, Dr. Joe Vitale. They popularized kind of the method. Dr. Joe Vitale is the one who popularized it more. And Dr. Hulan is the one who brought the teachings to the public, explanations, understanding, and much, much more. Okay. 1 second. Okay. I want to talk to you about something that in Ho'oponopono we call the zero. What is the zero? Okay. The zero means there is nothing. Okay. If you think about the word zero, even. 1 second. I decided I want to look at you guys. If you even think about the word zero, right? Zero means nothing. Zero means, clean, clear, zip, zilch, nada, as they say. And it's interesting to say that the word zero, the idea of the zero is very important in Ho'oponopono. The idea of getting back to zero. Zero means clearance, right? It's pure. There's nothing there. One of the interesting practices that Dr. Hulan would do at the training, he would write something, and he would give everybody a paper and a pencil, and he would say, write something or draw something or even put a dot on the paper. And then he said, everybody are getting an eraser. Take the eraser and erase it. And that's the idea of Ho'oponopono, that you are erasing the memory that we discussed last week, right? You're erasing the layers of addition to your karmic being, to your subconscious. And that's interesting to see that the memory that we discuss, right? That everything we experience goes in layers in the memory, and that brings data, right? That puts layers on our karmic existence, and all around us we constantly see stress. Stress adds to these layers, right? And the result, our soul, right? Our karmic understanding of the way we live life has layers and layers and layers. And the layers are what we put in, what we put aside, something we cannot deal with due to the lack of resources. We call it one simple word, stress, right? There are many different ways you can call it, but simply it would be called stress. And the idea is that as we are saying the phrases, we start clearing the layers. We're lifting them up and clearing it away, lifting it up and clearing it away. Right? In Neurographica, we know this is similar to the ARL, right? The algorithm for removing limitations, right? At one point, I know that the original, the Russian way to say, algorithm for removing limitations, there was a lot of debate on how to properly translate this algorithm, the name of the algorithm, right? And one of the names, right, that was proposed was lifting inner constraints, right? And that's interesting. Then I remember when I translated the book, I remember discussing this in details with Pavel, Pavel Piskaryov, the founder of Neurographica, and asking him what is the meaning of the name. And based on that meaning, I kind of gave the name that would more appropriately reflect, right, the removing limitations. But interesting to say that this second name, right, lifting inner constraints, is similar to what we do in Ho'oponopono. We actually lift the inner constraint, we lift those inner layers, and then we start cleaning, we start clearing them up, okay? And that's what's interesting, right? And the important part, of course, as we clean ourselves inside, we start clearing away, we start removing the layers of stress, first from ourselves, then from our families, and then, of course, from a community at large, from the world around us. Okay. Give me a second. Just want to see, sometimes my Facebook gets frozen and I'm not able to see live if anybody's asking a question or anything. That's why I kind of have to refresh it. Okay. I want to discuss with you again, go to the origins, go to the, to the further understanding of how we can see this process in different ways and in different understanding. Okay. I want to bring to you the idea of the cell. Okay, what is the cell? We're referring, of course, to the human body cell, the cells that comprise our human body, what we are consisted of, right? The healthy cell, okay? So the healthy cell is something that grows bigger, right? Wait 1 second. Before I even show you, I want to explain to you. The healthy cell is a circle, right? It's a cell that grows bigger and bigger and bigger at a certain moment, right? You probably guys remember we studied this in biology. In grade somehow? What happened? 1 second, I'm sorry. What happened? You fell from where? Where's that? Where's that? You just left? Oh, something cold. Sorry, guys. Where did Papa go? Did Papa tell you where he's going?
He went to the
Moshe. Okay, guys, go do something. Go draw a picture or something. Go put something cold on your head. Did you hear me? Put something cold. My apologies again for this interruption. One of those natural things, I assume. Okay. Okay, there we go. So Yes, I was talking about the cell. Okay, the regular cell within the biological functioning of our body, of human body, is it grows bigger and bigger and bigger, and then becomes double, right? And then at one point, it becomes like double, and it starts growing, right? Again, the double cell becomes growing and growing, and then those two, those double cells within one cell, they kind of separate. So as a result, the original cell kind of dies, right? It kind of disappears. It disappears in existence. But what happens is it kind of goes to further living through the double cell that it created, because that double cell again separates. Each cell kind of goes in its own way, and then it grows and goes through the whole process again, right? Again, becomes so big that that it again grows bigger and bigger, becomes double and separates again, and so on and so forth. This process goes on, and it's allegorical to the human life, right? When a person is born, it grows, it attaches himself to another person, right? Begets somebody, right? Gives birth to a child that gets bigger, older, kind of dies, right? We know death is a part of life. And the offspring kind of continues the life in the same possible way, right? So interesting to note, if I ask you, what is a cancer cell, right? A cancer cell is a cell that is not itself. Okay. Interesting part about the cancer cell is a cell that is unable to stop multiplying. It does not die. There is no cycle of life here, right? That cycle is broken. The cell does not function on its own. And the memory in such a cell is unflamed. It's trash, right? It's unclean. You cannot, nothing you can do. The cell is not functioning properly because there's some kind of dysfunction at the inner level, right? At the core. And that's where I'm inviting you to go with me on 1 second. Okay, excellent. And that's where I'm inviting you to, let's look at the theory of the cycle, of the circle, of the cell, okay? If we look at the cell, okay, actually what I'm going to do, for those of you who are on Instagram, right, you cannot see the live presentations that I have here, right? So what I'm going to do is what I did before. Let's hope it works this time. Make sure you guys will be able to see. Give me a second, everyone, as I'm adjusting Instagram. No, that happens. I'm going to go on. Okay. I think this way you guys should be able to see what I am drawing. Yes, I think this is better than it was before. Okay. It's more. Okay, there you go. So let's look at the cell idea, right? Let's look at the idea at the theory of the cell, right? So we have, interesting to know, this is the cell, okay? The dot in the middle is the cell, okay? And we have few layers that are surrounding the cell, okay? 1 layer, 2, and 3 layers surrounding the cell, okay? So the middle of the cell, right in the center, right here, is the circle, okay? Then this is the cell, okay? Then we have the next circle, right? The next round, the next layer is called subconscious. Subconscious, right? Then we have the layer after that is our conscious, right? And then we have something called supraconscious, right? Okay. Superconscious is something we also refer to as the soul. Okay. Sometimes people refer to it as unconscious, right? Something that's completely hidden within our realm of reality, within our access to our mind, to what we see, to what we understand. And what happens here is that when there are layers, and that's what happens when we have stress, when we have certainly something happening where everything gets layered off, we start layering it on this different layers of the cell. Okay, we put stress layers on subconscious, we put stress layers on conscious, and we can't reach our superconscious. Okay, and that's an interesting part to understand, our unconscious, right? We can call it, so we don't get confused, our unconscious. And that's where, when we do, that's what happens, that when we start saying, this four layers actually fully correspond to the four worlds that we have discussed in the previous session, right? The four worlds of the way we will live in the reality, right? Yeah, you guys can see it. Yeah. It's the physical world, it's the emotional, it's the thought, and it's the spiritual. To those of you on Facebook, we have this in the presentation right here, right? We have four worlds: physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And we discussed that. Our job, our goal is always to get to the spiritual world. We're actually going to discuss this in details. Why? So there's something hidden within the spiritual world that we constantly need in the realistic and the physical world. And in order to get there, we must go through the mental and emotional. If we try to jump around, it's not long lasting. It's never, it doesn't stay with us for too long. So our job is, and the four layers of the cell correspond to the world, right? The cell is a physical being, like we live on the physical realm, right? Well, let's go back. Give me a second. I just transfer this. Okay, there we go. So we can jump faster to the cell and the world, okay? So the cell actually corresponds to the physical, right? The actual cell, the dot itself, right, corresponds to the physical world, right? The subconscious, the first layer around the cell, is the emotional world, right? The next level, the conscious world, is the mind, our mind, right? And the fourth level, the fourth layer, is the spiritual world. It's where we want to be. It's our unconscious, it's our superconscious. If you remember, those of you in Neurographic, if you remember when I actually even led on last Wednesday, there was a pyramid of consciousness. If you remember the pyramid of consciousness, we go through those layers in order to get to the drive, which is a part of the process through Neurographic method, right? Which is, that's the best part. That's the amazing part about the Neurographic method, that you do get to go within your unconscious through the different layers, but you do so unconsciously, right? And there is a resemblance between the both methods, because that's what the Ho'oponopono method does the same. By saying the phrases, you get to clean each layer of the cell, and you get to clear up the way to get to the spiritual world, okay? Interesting to know that. Okay, that when you say the phrases, you get to clear, as you say the phrases, you clear up the level on each, the stress, you take away the layers of stress on each level in each world, and you get to the spiritual world, which is the goal, okay? And interesting to say that when we say thank you, right? If we just say the word thank you, just as we usually can be in regular life, right? We can say thank you, and our mind starts whirling around, and analyzing start beginning, right? We have analysis, right? Analyzing. When we say the phrases, we kind of start. The interesting part of about the phrases is there's no need for analysis, right? Which is what we do in Neurographica. When we do the reflection process, we do the same thing. We clear up the layer from each level. And what I usually teach the students is no analysis, right? No dwelling on a single layer, but instead going on, continue your journey, continue clearing and going, extending further and further up. Why, right? We're going to discuss this now. Why do we want so much to get to the fourth world? Why do we need to get to this outer level? what is in there, what is hidden in there. Okay, before we go there, I want to give you a bit of a different allegory, right? To again, to the way Ho'oponopono works. Again, the allegory of the cell. This time we'll bring it in a bit different level, right? So the cell is the child, right? You can do it here. The cell is a child. The cell is a child, right? It's an inner, right? The subconscious, the first outer layer is the mother, right? The feminine energy. The second outer layer is the father, the masculine energy, right? And then we have the superconscious, the soul, the conscious. We also refer to as God, right? Or the divine, right? The universe. Depends whatever you're comfortable with. Referring to this bigger outer world that's much more bigger than us, beyond us. It's beyond our mothers, beyond our father. It's way beyond there, okay? And that's the interesting part about the world, okay? Again, the inner cell, for those on Facebook, I'm showing you, inner cell is the child. The first layer is the mother. The second layer is the father, right? And that corresponds to the four worlds, because if you think about it, the child is the reality, the physical world, what we bring to the world. The emotional world refers to our feminine side, right? Our feminine side is more concerned with emotions, right? Our masculine side is more concerned with the mental world, with our thoughts, with the way our mind works. And then we have the spiritual world, right? Which is unconscious or superconscious, right? Which is God, the universe, the divine, okay? And interesting to know that the way the method works, the way the process, the practice works is that it always starts over here, guys. It always starts at the level of the subconscious, okay? The second layer from, if you go from the inside, okay? It's important to know that for the sake of the cell, right? For the sake of the child, this happens. But the child is not the one initiating it himself or herself, right? We do things for our children. Our children don't come and ask us. Most of the time, they don't come and say, can you make sure I live in a good house? Can you make sure, I have good food? We know this is something that's something of learning to become an adult, right? Intrinsically kind of trusting and understanding that the process of taking care of a child means creating safe environment, safe and nurturing environment where the child can develop, be safe, and then also have the freedom, have enough space to kind of be creative, express themselves and everything else, right? So the person who mostly does it, right, again, intuitively, we know that intuitively, this happens at the level of the feminine energy. Now, notice I'm not here saying exactly the mother or the father, right? We are referring here to the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And yes, nowadays it's happening again more. I see that around, in my family, that does happen. If I'm busy, my husband will be the one taking care of the kids, right? Making food, doing things that are traditionally considered to be female style, female jobs, or chores or responsibility. But that's what I'm referring to, because ideally within ourselves, we must learn how to initiate and make powerful both parts of us, the masculine part, which is the father side, and the feminine part, which is the mother side, right? So it is the feminine, right? The intuitive, right? We talked about it, that intuitively all mothers know, and all mothers are kind of biologically born with an instinct to be amazing mothers, to be amazing, parents to their children. And it is the mother's kind of yearning to make sure that the world that the child inherits is a better world. Okay, that the cell, the biologically, again, allegory to biological cell as the root of it all, right? It's the tiny, smallest. I mean, nowadays we know that the cell has also molecules and there are subparts, but at one point it was considered the smallest. And we know that at the biological level, the cell is, the root of all it is. And we are clearing on the cell level. We're clearing on the root level, right? And as we're clearing the cell, it's a mother's job who says, you know what, I want to change the world. I want to change the world so my future, right, that cell, when it grows up, it has a better world to live in, right? And it's up to her to initiate the process. She's the one who naturally says, who will say thank you to God, to the divine, for giving me the child, the cell. And then the mother, the subconscious, will go to the cell, say, first she said thank you to the divine. She said, I love you to the child. Then she starts understanding that there is a responsibility of leaving the beautiful world. Okay, those on Facebook, I'm showing, maybe I will just transfer to my camera. Those of you on Facebook, so you guys also can see what I am drawing. Give me a second. Okay, now you can see it. Voila. Okay, there you go. You can see it now. So the mother, it is the mother's initiation. It is the mother's idea to actually, go. One second. Go. To go, to get down to the level, to start understanding that the responsibility is to leave the world in a better place. And she starts owning up, right? She starts putting away her ego, right? We talked about the job of an ego last time, how it's preventing us from going forward, from transformation. Women do have an easier time with their egos, by the way. We know that, right? They're more softer, they're more able. And again, when I say women, I do mean, most of the women, I do mean mostly feminine energy, right? That's the one who has an easier job with an ego. And she comes down to the child, she comes down to the world, and the child is the world to her. And she starts saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Okay. So by saying the 4 phrases, by initiating, right? She initiates this process where she clears up, right? She clears up the layers every time she says it. And it's interesting to say, right, that afterwards, the layer travels back to the mother, right? It clears the subconscious area. It clears the layers from the subconscious, right? That's a mother's initiation. Then it clears the levels around the conscious, the father. Okay, the mother initiates it, and the cell, the child, by clearing the layers around the mother, also kind of goes further, clears the layers around the father. And by clearing both levels, the child has access to the superconscious. Okay, has access to the unconscious, to the God, to divine. And we know that beyond the 4th level, there's also a supernatural. We're not going to go into it, right? Those of you who watched the miracle session, you guys know what I'm talking about. There's a 5th world, and, a world that most of the people in the world, even those who are like very, read a lot and know a lot, don't know, but there is a 5th world. There's the world beyond the world we live in, okay? And basically the child gets an access to the unconscious, to the divine. And again, let's draw the 4 circles again. Let's draw the 4 worlds, okay? Okay, what is the reason? Why do we you want to get to the next level? Let's discuss this, right? We have the physical, the emotional world, the mental world, and the spiritual world, right? Again, referring to the family structure, right? The way we see the world, the way a human being experiences world within the family system, right? This is the person himself. This is the child, right? We're going to call it the child. And this is the mother, the feminine energy, right? The mother, the feminine energy. And energy. Mother. This is the father. The masculine energy, right? Those of you, I know some of you may be people who took the Neurographic course with me. We remember what this is all about. We constantly refer to this too, right? When you study the Kabbalistic Sphirot, this is so clear, right? Because we have 2 sides of the system, and there's a feminine side and there's a masculine side, and we tend to study them. So it's an amazing, amazing course. If anybody wants to study further, PM me. I will be glad to give you information on owning the course. And then there is a spiritual part, right? The spiritual part, of course, is God, divine, right? Our soul, right? To what we refer to, okay? So the child on the physical level, of course, yearns the mother, right? The father. But in order to survive, in order to be what are children naturally, creative, outgoing, they need to have access to the spiritual world, okay? And why does that happen, okay? Why do we need to do this? One second, let me start giving you the explanation. Energy, okay? The idea here is I'm bringing to the second part, to the next part within our session today. It's about energy. The spiritual, those of you who did the Pyramid of Unconsciousness, if you remember, we drew it even last week, and I have two more. All of the sessions that I referred to, most of them are available in the open realm, in the open access on my YouTube channel, Lana Shalom. By the way, including the Neurographic, the first session in the Neurographic course, which consists of 12 sessions altogether. But the very first session is an open session, and you're welcome to access it. So the Pyramid of Unconsciousness, if you remember when we start drawing Neurographica, what do we get? We get to the unconscious, we get to the drive, absolute self, individuation, paradise, soul, eternity. This is where past, present, and future coexist together, right? And that's what happens. This has the most amount of energy. That's why we refer to it as the drive, right? Like when people say, I'm in the drive, that means they have a lot of energy, they have a lot of resources to go where they need to go. And that's what it refers to when we say the drive. So the idea is that the human being, right, which is represented by the world child here, right? Because we're all everybody's children, right? Somebody's children or everybody's children in this case, right? And our goal is constantly to be able to get to the spiritual world, to get energy, to get resources, right? If you remember in Neurographica, people are familiar. I'm going to bring this idea to the Ho'oponopono, right? There is a person, and I'm going to make it a girl, right? I'm a girl, right? She wants to achieve something. She wants to reach a goal. She wants to just live her life and be happy, right? Isn't that the pursuit of happiness, right? The most kind of common trend nowadays, right? And she wants to be joyous and happy all the time. What does she need for that? What she needs for that is something, we just explained this yesterday in the basics course in Neurographica, right? We were discussing this. There is an idea that Freud referred to, right? Freud, the father of psychology, he referred to two main entities within a human psyche, within a human being, right? There is Eros and there is Thanatos. Thanatos, okay? Eros and Thanatos are two Greek gods, right? Eros was associated with desire, right? Wanting to live, right? Procreation, wanting to live, be happy, right? Procreation, creativity, okay? And then there is a part of us that's called Thanatos, right? Jung called it the shadow, right? There's a part of us, you know, that's earthy part, right? That Thanatos by itself means the word death, right? But not to get so morbid here. This also means, you know, being very, you know, stoic. Stoic means like it stands in one position, you know, some things it's very, what's the word? Very not moving, you know, something that stands in one place and it doesn't move, right? It's good to have something balanced, right? Let me find it. This is in the basics course. One second, it's right here, right? Yeah. This is routine, right? Routine. This is also, this is the part that brings aggressiveness within us, right? Aggressiveness, right? Sadism, right? Destruction, okay? Just FYI, all of us have this, okay? That's why denying this would be putting something within the shadow. We need to learn how to express ourselves, express our aggressiveness, our destruction, our violence in the most healthy, appropriate ways. Why? Because this is the way we learn how to function within the world and connect both worlds together, okay? So the human being is actually in the constant kind of, there's a constant, not a struggle, I would say, but maybe the life, the existence of a human being is in a constant, like a duality. We discussed the idea of duality, you know, this constant kind of presence within both going from one energy to another, right? We constantly want to desire, because if we look at it, the desire, the drive is always in the spiritual world. We talked about it, but there is also a physical world which constantly pulls us together. It has gravity, right? It kind of tells us that we need to have a realistic world. In order to live in the world, we need to eat, we need to be dressed, we need to have a shelter, and those require something called money. So we constantly need to get down and do work on a physical level. We have to earn money, we have to work, you know, we have to develop our creativity, which we get from the spiritual world, and bring it here. The human being, you know, if we discuss this idea of the eros and thanatos in, again, the cells, and the cell either has a plus or a minus, right? In the human being, the life is the existence of both of those cells, okay? We actually discussed this in details yesterday at the basics course. I love this, right? And the idea is to have a balance, to have either a balance, right? And if you have a balance, you kind of, you know, equilibrium, yeah? Or if you want to start something, if you want to get to your spiritual world, right? What do you need to get more? You need to get more pluses, right? But if you're not there, that means if you are not able to reach the spiritual world, that means you're in a state of minuses, right? And you don't have enough resources to go through. Why? Because the minus is coming from these two layers, the mental and the emotional. We discussed this last time, right? How we have a lot of leftover karmic baggage that we need to figure out. We need to learn to work through in order to clear it up and get to the spiritual, where we get energy. And the energy, you know, like those games, like the casino, every time you get it, it's going to go bing, 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 right? You get lots of energy and all your minuses turn into plus. In the spiritual level, your minuses, you know, and we all know this, although those of you who go to various retreats, right, you know that you go to those meditational retreats, vipassana, you know, silent retreats, and you become so energized, you become full of pluses, right? The whole world, everything around you, you see even something that doesn't happen positive, you look at it and you understand that it's a positive thing, it's a plus. You see the positivity within it, right? And then what happens, right? That's when you go to the spiritual world, right? And then you come back to the reality, right? And you start noticing, you know, you need to earn money, you need to, you know, be healthy, you need to take care of your children, you need to take care of your spouse, right? You need to take care of relationships with your significant other, with your family, you know, your parents, your sisters, your brothers, right? Your cousins, you know, the community at large, your neighbors, right? You need energy for all of that, guys. And in order to do that, right, every time we come back to the reality, we get surrounded by minuses again, because that's what life is, okay? Life is this constant balance between plus and minus. And the idea is to make sure not to have too many minuses, right? Because that's where, God forbid, you know, depression comes and all of that stuff. When a person is so blocked, the mental and emotional level is so blocked, they're not able to go through to get to the spiritual, to get the energy down. That's why it's so important, right? That's why this flow, this direction of energy is so important, okay? And interesting to start noticing when we talk about the physical world, when we talk about the reality, what is happening here? Why does this happen? You can ask me, right? And you will be absolutely right for asking me. And the explanation that I will give you, 1 second. Is this better? Okay. The explanation that I can give you is if we go to the idea of stress, okay, again, remember, the minuses come from stress. It's not the fact that something happens bad in life, right? Like I mentioned, when we are full of pluses, even when something bad, God forbid, happens, we tend to look at it positively. We tend to look at it and understand that life is a positive reaction. Yes, you can do it not too loud, okay?
Okay.
Go in your room, guys, and dance, okay? How is Rachel feeling?
I don't know where she is.
Can you call her and tell her to come to me? Thank you. Okay. And it's interesting to fully understand this, right? Again, you can see my realities of life, right? The children coming in and talking, they have no school today, the holiday, the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, where we sit in booth right outside, comes in, so they're home. And that's what it is. We deal with realities. How do you feel? I'm in session now, okay? Go. What? She's turning on songs. You want to go draw something? Okay. So interesting to start understanding, right? That the idea of stress is not that when something bad, God forbid, happens in the world, but the idea that, remember what happened with the child that we discussed? It's not that something bad is happening. It's the idea that the child, sees the human being start understanding that this bad happening in the world is something that's stressful to this person, right? Something that puts an idea in the human's head that what's happening is bad. What's happening is not good for me. And that's where the minuses come in. Talking about the stress, okay? The story goes like this. When you look at the way the nature works, right? When you look at animals, what happens with animals, right? If the deer, right? The deer at one moment is standing quite clearly on the prairie, on the field, right? Eating some, eating whatever they eat, the grass, right? Chewing the grass and just calmly grazing around, being beautiful and everything in nature, right? Like we see in the zoo, right? And then something happened that doesn't happen in the zoo, but it does happen in real life. What happens is that there is a lion or some kind of predator that's chasing, that comes up closer to the deer. The deer has instinctual, the deer feels the predator that's going to, at any second, multi-second, jump at him. And at that specific moment, the deer just gets off, gets this great amount of energy and starts running like never before. It gets this amazing way of running in the fastest possible way. The predator, the next story is the part of the conclusion is the nature, right? Either the predator will get the deer or the deer will be able to run away. But let's take the second situation when the deer is able to run away. What happens then? People who, the zoologists, the National Geographic people, when they looked at that, they would see that the deer would just go to the field and again, grazing and just quietly and calmly eating the grass. Again, like nothing happened before, right? There is a part, like when I studied the nature of trauma, there is a book I studied, The Nature of Trauma, amazing book. I actually created a course, a workshop called Trauma Release Workshop through the Neurographic Method. There is something that happened before the deer is ready to again eat the grass calmly. The deer goes through the shaking response, right? Where it fully shakes its body, all parts of the body parts of the deer get shaken, right? But the idea here is that we get energy from two sources. Energy comes from fear in this world, right? We have fear or we have love, okay? And fear gives you an interesting energy, right? Fear will give you an energy that's humongous. It's a humongous amount of energy, but it lasts very little amount of time, right? Let's say the mother is shopping, she's in the store, and then she gets a call. Guess what? Your school bus is here early. Where are you? I have to let your child off. What does she do? She throws everything on the floor. She runs to the car, or she runs across the street. She runs as she never came to the bus stop so fast. But somehow, the roads clear up. There's no traffic. She gets to this area where she's so, she has this fear that her child will be left alone on the street. She comes in, she's breathing heavily. She picks up the child. She brings the child home, feeding, chores, etc. There's no time to digest this fear. And she originally had this fear that the child might get stranded on the street alone, or even worse, be on the bus for another few hours, right? That happens when the bus drivers, sometimes they have the law, they don't let the child off alone. And they must leave the child on until they finish all, taking out, taking all the children around, making sure all the children have reached the have reached the home, right? Oh, thank you, Marla. Okay, I just read your note. Excellent. Okay, glad to see you're with me. Give me a second. Wait. Okay, there you go. And that's the difference between a human being, right? We didn't, our business of our life, we literally have physically, most of the time, have no time to digest our stress, to sit down and think, what was the problem? What was I feared? What did I fear? Digest the fact that you were able to take that fear, get in a kind of exchange with the universe, right? You were able to get to the part where you ask the universe for that extra energy, and the universe does give you energy, right? The human beings do not go through this ability to shake their body, so the stress would literally physically get away. What happens with the stress is that when it goes, right, when it goes untreated, when you don't digest your fear, when you don't digest that idea that what if my child would get stranded alone in the street, what might happen, to sit down and process it and say, you know what, that's gone. Never mind, everything is fine, or do mind, listen to your inner child, right? We worked with our inner child, inner parent, right? In the butterfly effect course, right? Talk to your inner child, talk to your inner parent, thinking, oh my God, am I a bad mother that I didn't look at the time? Work through that, right? Again, the best way to do this would be through the physical. Why? Because when the stress goes untreated, when the stress goes on a process, what happens with it? It becomes a layer on the cell. Okay, there's the cell. There's the cell. It goes as a layer on the cell, and the mother layer of the cell, the second layer, is, by the way, the thickest layer. It's thicker than the third layer. Okay, that's why I said it's the mother's job to make sure she goes through the layer. It is her initiation, because it is here. We know that, right? That the stress mostly around the mother, right? She's the one connected to the baby most of the time, more closely than the father, again, most of the time. For purely biological reasons, because she's the one giving birth to the child. She's the one who, has a closer, like a stronger kind of connection to the child, right? So it is her, like over here on this level, the second level is hardest. Once the mother initiates, she says, thank you, I love you. And then she goes to the child and says, I'm sorry, please forgive me. The child's layer clears up. It clears up the layer of the mother. Then it gets to the father, clears up, and goes to the superconscious. When we can get into superconscious, we get a different attachment of energy, okay? The fear energy mostly works over here on the physical level. Fear energy, right? We all know that we all heard stories, again, talking about mothers who are like in an emergency situation, they move cars, they pick up cars to get their baby, and it's interesting to know when they measure the strength, how heavy the car is. It's like, I don't know, 200 pounds, 300. I'm not sure. I'll be completely honest with you. I'm not an expert on that, but that's what it is, right? This ability, the strong energy of picking up heavy things, but you only get it for a short amount of time, right? Being able to pick up 200 to 300 pound things, but only for 15 minutes, right? It's like my children asking me always, Mama, do you want to be a superhero? Or they ask me something interesting, like, would you want to have a superpower? Or would you want to do something else? They keep asking me all those superhero kind of stories. And I usually choose yes, I would want to have a superpower, right? In literature, that's what happens. They become a superhero. They get this superpower, but it only lasts 15 minutes. It's very earthy. It's physical. It's reality based. Okay, in reality, we have a table. I cannot penetrate through my table, guys. Why? Because the table is a solid form, right? It doesn't even get like, it does not get soft. It does not become transcendent. Okay, and that's the interesting part. So what was I saying? Sometimes I lose my thought. Okay, right. And then there is a different kind of love, a different kind of energy that we get from the top part. It's love. Okay, love is a more balanced energy. okay? It still gives you some kind of superpowers. And interesting, it's not going to be like picking up 2 to 3 pound thing, but it will be picking up maybe 100 pound thing. It will be able, ability to get more pluses, right? And become supercharged, become super energetic, become super, ability to do things more beyond your realistic realm, right? And it lasts longer because it's more balanced. It doesn't come into, poo, this kind of bowls of energy, again, as we talk about superhero movies, right? It doesn't just come into this bowl of energy. It's more balanced. You do get energy, but it stays with you. It does stay with you much, much longer, right? And it's more balanced and it's long lasting, right? And if we go again, talk about the way it happens in the childhood, right? When we talk about the newborn, we discuss this, right? As soon the newborn comes with zero, we discuss the idea of the zero being completely clean, completely clear, right? And when the child is born, the child is completely pure. There is zero. There is no stress. There is nothing like that. And then at a certain moment, right, the mother gets anxious, right? The mother starts thinking, oh my God, what's happening? Is the child hungry? Why isn't he waking up, right? Will I have enough milk? All this anxiety. What do they bring, guys? They connect to the fear energy, okay? And they give some kind of energy to the mother based again on the fear. But the idea here is that the child catches up on that anxiety and the child then catches up on that energy wave subconsciously. Again, it doesn't fully understand consciously what it means to have enough milk, what it means, this whole idea of the mother, is she hungry, is she not, will I be able to take care of the child? But the child starts understanding that there is fear, there is anxiety. Anxiety comes from fear, it's connected to the fear energy. And then boom, 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 the child suddenly gets this high energy from the mother, right? When the mother is concerned about the child in anxiety level, what does she do? She starts checking on the child. The child gets extra super attention. And for child, that translates into getting energy waves, right? Okay, the child gets energy balls, right? Energy balls, right? Lots of energy hidden within that ball. But remember, the energy balls that come from the fear, they do not last long, right? So at a certain moment, the child starts feeling empty again. There is no energy. And the more this happens, the more the child gets used to this cycle of going, anxiety leads to some kind of picking up some kind of fear energy, huge balls of energy, and then there is emptiness. And the child grows up thinking, the child gets the message that this is how reality works. And the interesting idea to note is that most people get used to these waves and subconsciously constantly reenact this pattern. We're talking about people who are grown up, right? They start getting anxiety, they start getting worried, and that means creating certain circumstances in their life, right? Where they get anxiety, they get worried. Why? Because they're used to the idea that once you connect to the anxiety, once you connect to the fear energy, you get this huge energy balls, right? You only get the energy balls, by the way, to deal with this anxiety and worry that you kind of subconsciously create in your life in the first place. And it's this hidden circle, going around and around, you get the energy ball, you create the circumstances, right? That are not very comfortable, right? They're pokey, right? And you get the energy ball because you connect to the fear energy, right? And it goes on and on. And after they get the energy ball, by the way, what happens? They deal with the circumstances and then they feel exhausted because life is about struggle. They're struggling, they're constantly fighting dragons, we're talking about the hero's journey terms. They're constantly fighting dragons. You don't need to constantly fight dragons, right? You need to learn how to find the balance. After you find the dragons, you actually go through a different period, right? There's also another half a circle to go through. But the people get stuck in this circle. Circumstances, energy ball, fighting with circumstances, exhaustion. Okay, it leads to exhaustion. Okay, exhaustion. Okay, and that's why mothers, we know that in pregnancy and even when they give birth, right? It is a community's job, right? In many cultures, in many communities, it is a community job to take care of the new mother. They make food for her, they provide her with food, we give gifts, right? Again, according to the family system, guys, family system. I remember reading it when I studied this. This amazed me because in my community, for example, right, in Orthodox Jewish communities, when a mother gives birth, the whole community takes care of her. We cook food for her, we send her food, we bring presents, we welcome the new being into the world, we give presents, okay? And that's the way the family system works. We welcome the new being into the world and we take care of the mother. Why? Because the mother is in charge of creating the healthy cell. The mother has to feel loved. The mother has to feel balanced. The mother has to feel good, be happy, get enough sleep, take care of herself on the beginning level so that she produces a balanced energy of love. And the children like that get used to the balanced energy. They're used to they're not looking to constantly recreate circumstances so they can get a ball of energy from fear energy, but rather they're constantly connected to the love energy. And the love energy is about feeling loved, getting this balance of energy where, yes, sometimes you will get minuses, but you feel balanced. You understand that the way life works is life consists of minuses and pluses. There is no, feeling like, oh, that's it, the end of it, this dramatic understanding that my life is doomed, God forbid, right? No, right? And Dr. Hulan says a lot, do you notice that whenever something bad happens, you happen to be there? Huh, interesting, strange, right? In reality, it's not just like, why does this happen to me, right? The person says, why does this always happen to me? The bus never waits for me. I miss my train. I'm late to work. My boss takes me off, right? And it's not about you're there. It's not about this happens to you, but rather the realization that the world around us is the reflection of the world within us, right? If we constantly have this need to connect to fear, right? If we constantly have this need to feel anxiety, worry, constantly thinking what could go wrong with the reality around us, right? Then that's what happens, right? We constantly connect to the fear energy and we have difficulty going through the emotional and the mental world to fully connect correctly to the spiritual world where there is balanced love, balanced energy. Okay. 1 second. Let me look if there's any more questions, any more comments. Okay. We're good. Let me know, guys, if you have any questions, any comments. Yeah. And those of you who've done a few practice groups with me, that what happens when we get here? How do we accept love? We start laughing. We know that the symbol of laughter, symbol of smile, right? When I tell people just smile, right? Somebody told me this weekend that I was talking about somebody, and they're like, what are you talking about? Look at you, I look at you, you smile, and that's it. The whole world lights up, right? And that's what it is, right? Sometimes we feel very unenthusiastic, I want to bring this idea here, not to bring you, to feel the responsibility of the world on your shoulders. I don't want you to feel unenthusiastic. Oh my God, it's my responsibility to fix the whole world. No, it is not your responsibility to fix the whole world. You are not responsible for hunger in Africa. You are not responsible for any political system in any country, right? You are not responsible for that, guys. It's not about you being responsible. It's not about taking it upon yourself, right? What's the reason? A lot of people ask me, do we have to say sorry? What's the reason to say sorry? What am I sorry for? Why do I have to be apologetic for something? And I tell them a allegory. Let's say you go to a store, right? And you start shopping. You put groceries in your cart, you go to different aisles, you pick up things, you do things. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, wait, I forgot to take spaghetti, and marinara sauce for dinner tonight. And you're turning around quickly to go into the different aisle, and there's a person behind you, and you bump into them. And what do you say? What do you say? You say, I'm sorry, my apologies, pardon me, right? You didn't do that on purpose, right? You didn't bump that person on purpose. Why are you sorry? Why are you being sorry? Because this is, we learned this is how life works, right? It's called manners, right? It's called something like, we are not saying that I'm fully responsible for what happened to you, to this person, but we're saying at this moment, I did something that was accidental. Please forgive me. You say sorry because you became unconscious at one moment, the moment when you were so intrigued, so into your personal, life. What do you need to buy? What are your shopping lists? But you didn't see another person, guys. And then you became conscious and you acknowledge the person of another, the presence of another person. Okay. When you're in your own thoughts, sometimes you don't notice, right? My children do that, right? When they watch TV, I talk to them and they're like, and I'm like, hello, I'm talking to, like, oh, mom, I was too much. We're reading a book. Like, well, I have a daughter who is a bookworm. When she reads a book, that's it. She's in there. I have to come and like actually call her name and say, honey, and ask her a question. But at first I have to acknowledge her presence, right? And she has to acknowledge my presence. And that's what happens. Saying sorry doesn't mean you're guilty. Saying sorry doesn't mean you did something wrong. You're just saying that something unconscious happened, like bumping into somebody by mistake. And then you say, I'm sorry. You acknowledge another presence. Okay? That's what happens here, guys. We are not taking responsibility for the world. We're taking responsibility for ourselves, but we are acknowledging the fact that we live in the world and everybody have their worlds, and we want to align our four worlds together so that we go to the spiritual, to the love energy together. Wouldn't it be beautiful if we all get the love energy all together? When Dr. Hulen would treat those patients, right, he treated mental patients. We're talking about mental criminals, right? We're talking about horrible criminals, like people who, God forbid, rape, kill somebody, they're murderers, right? They're really high-level criminals who were acquitted because they were proven in the court of law that they're crazy or, they're mentally unstable, right? So what did he do? Do you guys think he took their files when he read it? Did he take the responsibility for their work? Of course not. He did not take responsibility for those people's actions. No. He treated the inner reflection, right? He started understanding, we did this last time, right? We explained it, how he started connecting. What does he feel in reflection to the stories that he read, in reflection to the ideas, in reflection to the life circumstances of those people? And he would deal with that through the four phrases, okay? So here's a practical, we're going to actually go into the practical session. We're going to do the breathing, but I want to give you a quick life hack. If you want to connect to the spiritual, if you want to connect to the life balance, life energy quickly, smile would be it. If you smile, you right away feel uplifting. You feel more energy within yourself. You start feeling your body. You connect to your body on a physical level, and you bring in that energy of spirituality, of drive, into your world. Okay, so smile a lot, people. And yeah, we have time. Let's do this. I want to bring you the meditation of the breathing meditation of Ho'oponopono method. Okay. What is the breathing meditation of the Ho'oponopono method? I will be explaining to you right now. Okay. We're going to do a series of breathing. Before we do breathing, before I connect, I'm going to explain to you how to do the breathing first, and then we will do the exercise. I'm inviting you, if you are watching with me, either live or recording, to do this breathing with me, okay? And here's the pattern, okay? I want you to be aware of it, okay? The first thing we're going to do is breathing in, okay? Breathe in, okay? And here's what I want you to do while you're breathing in. Okay, you don't need to focus on your breathing, but what I do want you to focus is count to 10. Okay, and then you breathe in, right? And then you hold that breathe, you hold that air inside of yourself and count to 10. Okay, hold your breath. Okay, hold your breath. Okay. And then what are you going to do? You're going to breathe out inevitably, right? Breathe out. And also count to 10, guys. Okay, count to 10. As you're breathing out, after you breathe out, guess what you do? You're holding again, okay? You are holding in, when I say, is actually becoming aware, okay? When you hold in again, hold, and you also count to 10, okay? those of you who will feel it's a little hard for you, especially when you hold your breath or when you're breathing in or breathing out to count to 10, you can do counting to 7. Okay, you can start counting to 7, but your goal is to get to counting to 10. Okay, this is very important to understand. Give me a second, my Facebook again gets stuck. Okay, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, give me a second. Let's do this. Yeah. Okay, so what happens here, just to give you an explanation, when we do breathing in, you know what, we're going to do this later. I want you to first practice the breathing, and then I'll give you more explanation and more connection to Ho'oponopono, okay?
Lana,
Yes.
when you breathe in, is this all through nose breathing or?
Yeah,
Okay.
as simple as, yeah. At this point, biologically, as simple as possible, whatever you're comfortable with. I would say when you're breathing in, if we're talking about biological, right? When you're breathing in, your mouth is closed, you're breathing in through your nose. That's the appropriate way of breathing. When you're breathing out, you open up your mouth and you can do breathing out through your mouth to allow the air to escape fully and more appropriately. Thank you for asking that. Yes, biologically speaking, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's do this, guys. Okay, breathing in. Let's count. We're going to take about, I would say, maybe a few minutes. Okay, take your time, guys. Actually do the exercise. I promise you, it's gonna connect better for you with the explanation that I give if you do the actual exercise. Okay. Again, breathing in through your nose. Slow breathing in, guys, and slowly breathing out. Okay, try to hold in between breathing in and breathing out. Hold your breath. Okay, now pay attention, since you guys see my hands. We need to put our hands in the correct position when we do the breathing. The fingers are the connection of a person to the divine. If you ever heard of the mudras, you know, I practice mudras a lot. I am an avid practitioner of mudras. I read a lot. It's an amazing, again, area to study and area to see. So okay, my child actually came from a daycare one day and she told me this. She learned this in daycare, which I thought was phenomenal, right? It takes me whatever, how old I am, I'm not going to tell you, let's say 25 years old, right? It takes me 25, 30 years to get to the point where I start understanding that my fingers have something to do with my spiritual world. She comes in from daycare. That was a few years ago. I remember when I just learning the Ho'oponopono. And she says, Mom, do you know that our fingers, you know, are connected to the God, you know, to the divine? And I'm like, really? And she says, yeah, look, this finger is you, human being. This is me. And this is God. Look how big it is, right? And she says, this is me naked. We have to be very careful not to let it out, okay? It always has to hide. I found that to be so whimsical. I don't remember what she said about the other fingers. I think, yeah, she said, this is a responsible person. This is a person who likes to take care. This is a caregiver, right? This is a person who gets married. We have their wedding rings here usually, right? And she says, this is the child. You know, and of course, this is the reference to our inner child, and this is the reference to our inner parent. So in this case, I am inviting you, right, the adult within you, to connect to God, right? So our fingers go like this. We connect the two fingers together. We are connecting to the divine. And I'm initiating again, 10, breathing in, hold your breath, count to 10, breathing out, count to 10, and then hold your breath and count to 10, okay? If you can do this 10 times, guys, okay, all together, the whole breathing exercise, 10 times, okay? Ready, set, go. I'm done. I'm going to give you a minute, one more minute to finish your practice. Yeah, Marla, very balancing. I agree with you. Okay. Okay. As we are finishing, I do want to, note that the 10 times, the reason we do this 10 times is to automatically internalize this breathing pattern. And now the second time we're going to do this practice again. We're going to do it with the phrases, okay? When you do the breathing in, you say thank you, okay? Because your breath is a gift. Your breath is a present from the divine, from God, from the universe. There is an interesting study that I read, the research that said that when a person breathes in, the complexity, the human body is so complex in the way everything works. And the breathing in, right? I don't remember the details, right? The names of the body parts within, but like my husband who studied the audiology and speech pathology and everything, he would be able to know more details, right, about the body part. But within your, I think within your throat, right, within inside your throat, there is this kind of windpipe. There is this element. There is this construction, the structure of the way your body is built, right? So when you're breathing in, something closes up, right? And then when you're breathing out, also the thing kind of moves, and the breathing, the air goes out, and again it closes up. So the idea is that every time this windpipe, or whatever you want to call it, the structure opens up and close, and then again open up and close. First it opens up to allow the air in, and then it opens up to allow the air out. They say that the nature of the structure is so delicate. We, within our natural breathing, instinctual breathing, right? We breathe subconsciously, unconsciously. It's an instinct within us, right? That's what happens again on the baby level. When the newborn is born, the very first thing they do, right, breathing in, as soon as that happens, everybody sighed the relief of sight that yes, everything is fine with the baby. As the baby's screaming, that scream is allowing the air to go in, right? Lots of, again, metaphysical explanation, commentaries on this, which we're not going to go into now, but the idea is that the breathing itself, they say, is a potential, again, not to get more morbid here, but it is a potential for death, right? Every time the person breathes it out, there is a potential, God forbid to anybody, that the next breathing in that happens, that windpipe may not open up. It may not take place. So every time it happens, we go through the cycle of actual renewal. We go through the cycle of actual rebirthing, right? This is the idea I want to bring to you, that every breathing is so important, right? The idea of breathing, that breathing as a meditation practice is extremely important, because every time we breathe, we reenact the rebirthment within our life, right? Imagine being rebirthed on a multi-second level, right? Because I think we're breathing maybe once during 1 second or not. I'm not sure about that time frame. But the idea is that every time you breathe, you are regenerating your life. So When you're breathing in, you say, thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to continue my life. When you're holding on, you say, I love you. As you say, I love you, it's interesting to note, I want you to pay attention now. Also, if you might, most of you might have noted, when you hold your breath, what you are doing is you're feeling your body. Some of you may have been focused on counting to 10, but what happens in reality, you focus on your body, you focus on the idea that, 1 second. You focus on the idea that this breathing goes into your body and it replenishes your body, right? We know what breathing does. It allows, it gives oxygen to our bloodstream, and the bloodstream goes and does the job better by making sure every single body part, every single cell, we spoke about the cell today, right? We're discussing the cell, right? Gets regenerated with fresh oxygen. And this fresh oxygen is like saying, I love you, right? We're saying, I love you to our body at this point, right? On this level, let's say, again, this can be understood on many allegorical level. And then when we are breathing out, right? What happens? We are breathing out, right? We say, I'm sorry. Because as we said, this is like this is a connection, again, allegorical. This is the beginning of life. We say, thank you. The baby starts breathing. Then we say, I love you. This is the way we live life, right? Beginning of life. This is life itself, right? Ideally, it should be saying I love you all the time. That's our goal. Then we say I'm sorry. This is closer, getting closer to, kind of getting closer to the second part of the cycle, right? I'm going to say again, not to get morbid with you guys, again, take it very allegorically, ending of life, right? And then what happens here? We say, please forgive me. This is the soul, right? This is the soul ending its journey in earth. And the soul goes back into that vastness, right? When we mentioned that there is a fifth world around where all the souls live, right? The soul goes there, and what does it do? It starts the regeneration, right? It starts preparing itself. If it starts figuring out, what happened with life. Was there some moments? Were there any instances when I was so caught up in realistic life that I did maybe something that on the soul level would be considered not so correct, okay? And what do I do about it? How do I go about it, right? And that's what happened on the soul level. The soul is concerned with, please forgive me, making sure clearing up all the layers that were gathered here during lifetime. And that's where it happened. The soul start looking, is it necessary for the soul to come back to life? And the soul makes a decision. Does she want to come back to life? And start the cycle again, okay? This is the cycle of life, okay? The cycle of life is the soul's level. The soul is the cycle, never ending, never beginning. It's constant, okay? This constant circle, right? And sometimes we know even when the soul doesn't physically come to life, they help karmically, right? They become supporters of people, their offsprings in this life, right? That's why a lot of times, like, if we have people who are, deceased, we talk to them, because we ask them for support, right? Because the soul is constantly still concerned with the realistic life, okay? But the human life is actually the square, just to give you an allegory, the symbolic allegory. Those of you who practice Neurographic on an advanced level, you guys would relate to this, because the circle we know is the care, it's the universe, it's nature, never beginning, never ending, right? Constant soul. But life is a square. Life is something we need to build, right? Now, if it's something we need to bring into life, and yes, sometimes we have corners, sometimes we have something that's not, that would be pokey, that would be sharp, and we have to learn how to go around it, right? We have to learn, and that's what we do in the Neurographic method. We have to learn how to add rounding, right? Conjoining part here, right? So that when we work when we deal with situations, we are doing so on the level of, responsible, right? Being adults is building your own square, building your own home, right? Building your own life, okay? It's important, I do want to know that after you finish your meditation, I am drinking some water. Those of you who are not talking like me, you can actually munch on something. It's actually important to do that because that's how you ground. I'm not saying eat something heavy. I would say maybe dried fruit, piece of maybe some nuts. Again, drinking water. Make sure after the meditation you do that because this is the grounding. I want to make sure that you guys come back, you stay with me on this realistic earth level, okay? Again, I am drinking water. Let's do the next session, the next round of 10 times. Let's do this instead of counting to 10. Again, I suggest you guys do this exercise. Marla, are you with me?
Yes, I can hear you now too. It froze there for a minute.
Were there interruptions?
It
Yeah.
froze as you were going into the second session of holding our breath.
Okay, thank you for telling me that. I just all of a sudden looked up and something is up with my Facebook. That's why I wasn't sure. Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know.
Thank you.
Seems like my Zoom kind of went out and then went in on its own, so I had to reenact it. Okay,
Okay, great.
let's go back. Thanks for being with me.
Yes, I'm loving it.
You're my, what's the name? There's Batman and then there is I forgot the guy who's helping him. Yeah. Okay, great. So just explaining again, when we do the breathing in, we say thank you. Again, slowly breathing in, saying thank you. Then while we're holding our breath in, right, you can actually say, I love you. See if you can connect to your physical sense. See how you feel your body. Feel the breeze, that air that you breathed in, feel it within your body. But the main idea is to say, I love you. And then when you're breathing out slowly, say, I'm sorry. And then when you're in between the worlds, you say, please forgive me, okay? Again, we're going to take a few minutes. It's going to be quietness, but I hope you guys are going to practice with me. So again, as we are working together, as we're clearing and cleaning the energy all around us, okay? have finished with my breathing practice. Let me know how you are doing. If you are doing this with me, if you are breathing with me during the meditation, you can note. I'm going to give you an extra minute to do it, and then we're going to continue. We have 15 minutes left, and I want to give you interesting information. Okay. So as we finish the second round of breathing, as we actually practice the breathing meditation, we saying the 4 phrases. It's we can continue further. Give me a second. I have some kind of noise. Give me a second. So excellent. I'm so glad to hear, Marla. Yes, it does feel amazing. Again, it's a different take on doing the whole Ho'oponopono practice, right? It's a completely different feel. It's a completely different take. It's understanding, and this is what I want to give you another explanation before we break in for a week for the next session. I want to bring you a different explanation that, again, this comes from Dr. Hulen. The way he says it is everything inside ourselves is, and we can say it as a mantra. Also, you can just listen to me. Everything is alive. Everything is inside us, from within us. Everything can be changed. And we are everything. Again, corresponding to the 4 worlds, right? Everything is alive. This is responding to the physical world. In the physical world, we say everything is alive, right? Even a stone, right? Everything is alive. Everything is inside us, from within us. We go into the emotional world. Everything can be changed. It's a mental, right? That's a thinking, the affirmations and everything that comes on the mental world. And then on the spiritual world, on the universal level, we are everything. We have the micro world, right? Which is the world within us, right? That everything is within us. And then we have the macro world, right? That everything is outside of us. We are everything, right? We start with a micro world, right? We start on focusing on ourselves, right? Who am I on the inside, right? And as we go through different layers, that everything is inside us and it's from within us. And then we start understanding everything can be changed. And then we get to the macro world, right? Where we understand that the world around us is a reflection of who we are on the inside, okay? And I want to explain to you, and this can be your exercise. I mean, we might have time. We can continue. We can even practice doing this, guys. Remember how I told you that you do this exercise of counting to 10 so you can internalize this breathing pattern and your body will know what to do, will not rush it, You can say the way we did it, right? You can say this is the long version, right? Where we're saying thank you within breathing, I love you when you hold, breathing out, I'm sorry, and then please forgive me when again you hold. You can also do it, express version. Every time you breathe in, you say thank you. This will take practice. I'm going to tell you that right now. I love you. You do it quickly. I am sorry. You can actually, don't say this. You just say thanks. Okay. There's no long version. Thanks. Thank you, love you, okay, sorry, forgive me, okay. Sometimes when you say this, this will be an express and this will be multiplied, guys. Think about it. Every time you say it, you say 4 phrases, right? Every time you do the original one, what the one we did, we say 4 phrases within one breathing cycle. But let's say you say 4 of them, right? 4, and then again, the 4 phrases here, the quick ones again, and then the 4 phrases here. It takes practice. I promise you, once you start practicing, this will happen. I learned it, people learned it, you can do it yourself, okay? 4, 4, 4, 4. Look, for one cycle of breathing, you're already doing 16 phrases, guys. Imagine how powerful, how transformational that is, okay? As you're breathing in, you say, thank you, love you, sorry, forgive me, right? And then you hold your breath, and again, you quickly say it. When I'm saying it out loud, by the way, it's not as quick. Within your mind, we know it goes quicker. Again, as you're holding your breath, you say, thank you, love you, sorry, forgive me. Then you're breathing out slowly, and again, you say, thank you, love you, sorry, forgive me. And then as you hold in, again, you say the 4 phrases. Imagine, when we say it once in every cycle, right? That's 4 phrases per breathing cycle, right? And when we do it 4 times, we do 40. Those of you who know the many understanding meditational, spiritual, various integrative practices, we know 40 is a magical number, right? 40 is a number of days it takes for a fetus to be formed, right? 40 is a number of days, when, again, God forbid to anybody, when the soul has a full cycle, right? It goes back to the, to the divine. 40 is a number of days we count, we mourn for somebody, the major idea, the soul still keeps coming back, keeps returning to the world, kind of trying to figure out, is there anything they can do, right? And 40 has many significance, right? 40 is the age of a person when the person starts reaching wisdom, right? In many cultures, right? In Judaism, 40 is considered to be like the age of wisdom, right? And so on and so forth, right? But imagine if we do this 4 phrases on each side. Within one cycle, we do 100, we do 16. So when we do this 10 times, we do 160 breathings. Can you imagine how magnificent, how transformational this is? Okay. So I am suggesting we do this. We have 8 minutes till then. Let's do this. Let's take 5 minutes. Let's try. This can be your homework. You guys do this on your own. But let's try. I'm gonna invite you to try this with me, okay? Again, prepare your fingers, connect the human, the adult within you, your pointing finger with your thumb, with the divine. And you have to be careful. If you put the finger on top of the thumb, then you're kind of trying to, your ego is kind of trying to overtake it. If you put the divine on top, you may be too overwhelmed with maybe circumstances with the universe. Do both, do it in a balanced way. They connect together, this Michelangelo style of connection, right? We know that's what it was, right? The connection of the finger, with the Sistine Chapel connection. Yeah, something like this. Let's do this. Let's connect the human, the adult within us with the divine. Again, it's your choice. You can just do the breathing exercise again. You can just count to 10, or you can just say the phrases once, or you can do the 4 phrases the way I'm doing it, okay? I've done my meditation. I'm going to give you a minute to finish. And those of you who want to relate to this Neurographica method, right, through my teachings today, besides inviting you to join me for the practice group on Wednesday and no, this week it's going to be Thursday and Friday, guys. Please pay attention. I'm going to have to remember to put it in the book, in the group. Okay, because I'm rushing to get ready for the holiday. 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday is Sukkot, the holiday of the booth. We're going to go, and it's an interesting holiday. I want to know, connecting to the divine while being outside, eating outside, kind of living not fully. We're still sleeping at home, but some people actually do sleep in the sukkah, in those interesting tents people built. Those of you who live near Jewish communities, you will see people living in certain tents, eating there, festive, you know, connecting to the divine, going out into the field and connecting to the divine. Yeah, Marla. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Amazing, right? Completely different feeling. Practice at home, doing all three, guys, you know, just counting to 10, allowing your body to get used to this breathing pattern, right? Then doing it once through each turn, you know, through each cycle, part of the cycle, the 4 parts. And then doing it 4 times. You know, when you can do it 4 times, I do want to give it to you when you're extremely energized, right? It could be actually when somebody is like nervous about something, you can do this, like getting ready for an exam or something. Or you can do it even like, you know, in daily life, like when you are dealing with something realistic, something, you know, that has to do with your world, right? Connecting, you know, to this extra fast energy of yours. And again, clearing that out. Okay, those of you who want to do something neurographical related, what I'm inviting you to do is to connect to your inner child. Okay, the first thing we're going to actually draw, it's going to be a big circle, right? It's going to be a mandala drawing, right? If you want to do it, this is again, you're invited to join me this week. It will be Thursday and Friday at 10 a.m., guys. Okay. We're actually going to go through the specialist algorithm, connecting to each phrase, right? And within your mandala, this is your world. This is the super conscious. This is the divine, okay? You can write it here, the divine, okay? Within this world, this is your world, your planet. We have a father. We have a mother. The mother is going to be circle, right? We know mother is circle, mother, right? You have a father, just kind of draw and see where it goes. Don't worry about the location, do it instinctively, intuition-wise, father. And then we have a child, okay? And there's your child. Your inner child is right here, right? And you can add a number of neural lines, okay? Add your neural lines slowly, okay? And connect. Watch how your neural lines go through. I'm doing it quickly just to show you the idea. You can do this yourself. Just to leave you with something fun to do, something interesting to do. Those of you, again, who are neurographic practitioners, you will have fun doing this. When you go through the father, connect to the energy to the father. As I went through the child, I realized my child is connecting to the mother, connect to the energy of the mother. And we know that's how it is, right? The father connects with the mother first, right? You can do that too, by the way, right? Connect the energy of father through the mother, right? And that happens, by the way. The soul of the child first connects to the mother, by the way. It sends the mother a message. I want you to be my mother. I want to be your child, right? And as you do this, as you draw the lines, you can connect and say the phrases. I'm inviting you to smile every time you say, thank you, I love you. I'm actually inviting you to smile, even when you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Just smile, guys. I promise you this will brighten up your day, no matter what happens in life, right? And then you can connect your child to the father. It's very important for us to connect to our father, right? It's kind of understated within the parenting development system, but in the family system, which I'm studying, you know, Very fascinating, but just to let you know, both mother and the father are equally important. So do connect to both, okay? And remember to always connect your father to your mother. We need this balance. Again, those of you who are interested in studying this more through the Sphirot teachings, welcome to have the Neurosphirot course in recordings. Absolutely amazing, in-depth study of this mother energy, feminine energy, masculine energy, and how it connects to the child. Because if you remember, that's how Spherots are formed, right? We have Keter, and then we always have 3 areas of 3 cycles, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Connection, and they're all connected, just to give you a quick idea. And then there's one more connection, right? And I explained to this on many different levels. And then we also have Malchut, which is when the person becomes an adult and starts becoming a creator. Okay, guys? And of course, those of you, again, who you can just make a neuro art out of this, add more neural lines, add more connections, add your color, just to keep you, busy with something for the next 2 days. I'm off to my holiday. To those of you who celebrate Sukkot, happy Sukkot, Yunit. I see you gave me a like. You're in Israel. You probably already started the holiday. Yes, Marla, I will explain this next time. I will add the 5th and the 6th step when breathing this meditation. Yes. Yeah, I will explain this faster just to let you know. Over here on the 4th, over here on this side, you combine the I'm sorry, please forgive me together. You're going to see this reflected within our practice group. When we draw the algorithms, the drawings, this connects together. I'm sorry, please forgive me goes together. And then over here, we'll do the 5th and the 6th phrase. You know them already. I will introduce them to people next time, okay? Over here, you put, I forgives myself, or God or divine forgives myself and loves myself, okay? But to answer your question quickly, definitely will be processing this next week. Okay, guys, next Monday is the next meeting. Welcome. Wishing you a beautiful day ahead. Congratulations to everybody who's celebrating, who's not. Still, guys, the energy is out there for everybody to connect to the divine, connect to the earth. Astrologically, we are the full moon. So this is amazing, amazing time to start connecting to the energy of the full moon, this amazing energy, okay? Goodbye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.